Hello guys, welcome on Tesla Adventures. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate a very important and unique concept of instantaneous axis of rotation. This concept would be very helpful for us in solving the question in almost 50% of their original solution time. So in JEE Advance, the questions are asked from RBD, and the length of the solution of those questions is too large. So to simplify those questions and to solve those questions in a shorter period of time, we need the concept of instantaneous axis of rotation. First of all, let me tell you that this concept is valid for the objects or the rigid bodies which are rolling purely and which are in the state of both translational as well as rotational motion. So let us take an example that this is a ring which is rolling on the ground, and the velocity of its center is v0, which is equal to v, and the angular velocity of the ring about the center is omega. So v will be equal to r omega, and hence if we find out the velocity of any point lying on the ring, then we have to add up the velocities due to both motions, translational as well as rotational motions, and we have to add them by vector addition. For example, if we write down the velocity of point A, then the velocity of point A would be v plus r omega. Now this is due to translational motion and this is due to rotational motion. So the velocity of point A is due to both motions. Now the velocity of center O is only v because the center is not rotating about any other axis. In fact, the complete system is rotating about the center with an angular velocity of omega. So the velocity of the center would only be translational one. Now the velocity of point B would be 0 because due to translational motion, point B is moving in the forward direction, and due to rotational motion, point B is moving in the reverse direction by r omega, and v is equal to r omega. Therefore the net velocity of point B would be 0. So now we know that the point B is at rest, and hence let us name that point B as instantaneous center of rotation, and let us assume that there is an axis which is passing through that point B, and it is perpendicular to the plane containing this screen. So this axis is known as instantaneous axis of rotation, IAR. Now what we are doing, that we are considering that this ring which is in the state of translational and rotational motion is only rotating about this instantaneous axis of rotation, and there is no translational motion of the ring. So we are equating both those motions to only rotational motion about IAR. So if we do that, then velocity of A would be 2r omega, because A would be rotating in a circle of radius 2r, because now the center of rotation is this point. So the radius of point A would be 2r, and therefore the velocity of point A would be 2r omega. Similarly, this 2r omega is equal to 2v because v is equal to r omega. Therefore we can say that velocity of the point A remains unaltered. Now the velocity of point O would be r omega, because O is situated at a distance of r from the instantaneous center. Therefore its velocity would be r omega, and r omega is equal to v. So velocity of point O is also unaltered. Now the velocity of point B, which is the instantaneous center, would be 0, because we have assumed that this complete ring is rotating about this center point and center is at rest. So this is the concept of IAR, that IAR simplifies both the motions into single motion, and therefore IAR is useful in solving the questions in shorter period of time. So when some rigid body is in the state of rotational as well as translational motion, then its both motions are equivalent to only rotational motion about IAR, which we have already seen. The point of intersection of this IAR with the body is called as instantaneous center, which is this point B, and the complete motion of the body, which is rotational as well as translational motion, is equivalent to only rotational motion about IAR, and therefore this instantaneous center is always at rest because the complete body is rotating about this point. Now the angular velocity remains unchanged. I mean to say that the angular velocity with which the ring was rotating about the central axis is the same angular velocity with which this complete ring is rotating about this point. Okay, so angular velocity remains unchanged. Obviously we know this fact that in any rotational motion the angular velocity about any point remains the same. Now let us see more examples. Let us see that the velocity of this point D due to rotational as well as translational motion. So the velocity of point D due to translational motion is V in the front direction, and due to rotational motion is R omega in the downward direction, and obviously it is in the state of pure rolling, so V is equal to R omega. So this is also V. So the net resultant velocity is root 2 V. So if we find out this velocity by the concept of IAR, then we know that in this case of pure rolling, the IAR is point B, and the axis which is passing through this point B is IAR. Now we join this point D with the instantaneous center, and this is called the radius of point D. So D is rotating in a circle of radius root 2r, like that, and therefore the velocity of point D would be R omega, where its radius is root 2r, so Vd will be equal to root 2r omega. So R omega is equal to V, and therefore Vd is equal to root 2V. So you can see that the result is same. Now if we find out the velocity of any general point, let us say that this point which is at an angle of theta with the lower vertical, so we can write down the velocity of this point due to translational motion, it is V, and due to rotational motion it is R omega in downward tangential direction. So we know that V is already equal to R omega. So the resultant velocity V will be equal to under root of V square plus 2V square cos 180 minus theta, and the resultant will be equal to under root of 2V square plus, in fact, minus 2V square cos theta, because cos 180 minus theta is equal to minus cos theta. So this is root 2V under root of 1 minus cos theta, and this can be written as root 2V into root 2 into sine theta by 2. So V resultant is equal to 2V sine theta by 2. So this is the resultant velocity of point P, which we have calculated by adding the velocities of translational motion and rotational motion by the vector sum. Now let us find that velocity by using IAR concept. So first of all, we know that IAR is an axis which is passing through this point B, and therefore if we join this point P with IAR, so this would be the radius of rotation, and we can say that this point P would be rotating like that with the angular velocity omega about IAR. So if we draw the perpendicular on this line, then we can see that this angle is theta by 2 and this angle is theta by 2, and this is capital R. So this length would be 2r sine theta by 2. You can see that because the component of r along this blue line is r cos theta by 2, and along this one is r sine theta by 2. So this is r sine theta by 2 and this is r sine theta by 2. So the total length is 2r sine theta by 2. So the velocity of this point P would be r omega, or we can say r dash omega, where r dash is equal to Vp is equal to r dash, which is 2r sine theta by 2 into omega. So r omega is equal to V. So this is equal to I'm writing it on the next page, that this is equal to r omega is equal to V. So this is equal to 2V sine theta by 2, which we have already obtained. Now you can see that the length of solution in the conventional approach and the length of solution in the approach of IAR is only in the two lines. So this is the benefit of IAR, that it simplifies the question of rolling. Now how to locate the instantaneous axis of rotation? So there are majorly two cases in which we have to locate the IAR. The case one is the fact that we are given with a velocity of any point in the body and the angular velocity of that body. So we are given these two variables. So let us suppose that the velocity of point A is given in this direction and the angular velocity of the body is given omega in the clockwise sense. So we know already that if we have to locate IAR, then IAR is instantaneously at rest and the complete body is assumed to be moving in only rotational motion about IAR. So in the case of only rotational motion, the velocity of any point is always perpendicular to the radius. So let us draw a perpendicular line to this velocity and let us see that IAR would be lying on this axis either on upper side or in lower side. So if we assume IAR on upper side, then you can see that if this body is rotating and it is moving in this direction at this instant, so its angular velocity would be like that in anti-clockwise sense, but it is given in clockwise sense. Therefore IAR cannot be at this point above the point A. So IAR would be definitely at somewhere like that, or it can lie outside the body also. So if this distance is r, which we have to find out, then you can also see that if IAR is at this point, which is below the point A, then if we rotate this point A like that, then omega would be in clockwise sense, which is already given in the question. So we can see that IAR would be in the lower side of this axis. So the radius r can be calculated by V by omega, because V is equal to r omega and V and omega are given to us. So the distance of IAR from point A can be calculated by this formula, r is equal to V by omega. Now if this velocity is given in the same direction V, but the omega is given in anti-clockwise sense. So first of all, let us draw the perpendicular. So this is the perpendicular to the velocity, and obviously by the previous discussion we can say that IAR would be lying above the point A on this axis, because if we rotate the point A starting in the direction of its velocity, then its rotation would be in anti-clockwise sense, and it is correct because in question it is given that omega is in anti-clockwise sense. So this is clockwise omega and this is anti-clockwise omega. So the distance r is still the same, which is v by omega. Okay, now in case 2, in which the velocity of any 2 points is given and omega is not given to us, and the distance between these 2 points is also given. So we have to find out the IAR in this case. Now you can see that if some system is only rotating about some axis or its center, then all the points which are lying on one side of the center would be moving in the same direction, like that, and the other points which are on the different side would be moving in the opposite direction, like that. So we can conclude that in the first case, in the case A of case 2, this velocity of point A and B is given in the same direction. Therefore, the instantaneous axis of rotation would be lying either on this side above A or either on this side below B. But it cannot lie between A and B, because we know that if these points are moving in the same direction, then IR would be lying on a similar side of both the points. So now the second thing which is very important, that as we move towards the center, towards the instantaneous axis of rotation, or towards the center of the circle, then the velocity of each point decreases. You can see that. So if the velocity of A is greater than velocity of B, then we are moving in the direction from A to B, and we are moving towards IAR. Therefore IAR would be lying somewhere here. So if this point is IAR, so we need to find out the distance of IAR from A and B. So let us suppose that distance of IAR from B is RB and distance of IAR from A is RA. So we can equate the omega. So let us suppose that omega is the angular velocity, which is not given in the question. So V upon R A is equal to omega, and this is VA, and VB upon RB is also equal to omega. So the equation 1 is VA upon RA is equal to VB upon RB. This is the equation 1, and we can see that RA minus RB is equal to D. So this is the equation 2. By solving these equations, you can find out the IR, you can find out the RA and RB. Now in the second case, I'll show you that in the second case the velocities of A and B are in opposite direction. Therefore, as per our discussion, the IAR would be lying somewhere in between these 2 points, and if this is IAR and this distance is RA and this distance is RB, so we can write down that VA by RA is equal to VB by RB, and RA plus RB is equal to D. So this is equation 1 and this is equation 2. So this is the method to find out IR, and you can easily calculate RA and RB by 2 variable solutions. Now let us move on the numericals based on IAR for better understanding. In this question, there are 2 points A and B which are lying on a disk. The distance between A and B is D. So the velocities of point A and point B is shown, and we have to find out the angular velocity of this disk. Now I'll show you this calculation by instantaneous axis of rotation. You can also find out the angular velocity by a simpler method just for this question, but we are discussing about IAR, so I'll show you how to find out the angular velocity by instantaneous axis of rotation. Now in this case, in this first case, you can see that if these points are lying on the disk, then if I resolve them into two directions, so this one is v1 cos 60 is v1 by 2, and this one is v1 sin 60, which is root 3 v1 by 2. Now the component of v2 along this direction is root 3 v2 by 2, and the component of v2 along this direction is v2 by 2. Now we already know that these points are lying on a disk, and disk is a rigid body. So the distance between these 2 points is always constant, because disk is neither shrinking and disk is nor expanding. So the distance between A and B, AB, is always constant. So V1 by 2 should be equal to root 3 V2 by 2. So V1 is equal to root 3 V2. This is the first case, first equation. Now in this question, if we locate the IAR, instantaneous axis of rotation, then we have to draw the perpendicular to the velocities, and hence these are like that. So the point where these two perpendiculars are intersecting would be IAR, because any two radius always meet at center of the circle. So this angle is 30 and this angle is 60. And if the distance of A from IAR is RA and this is RB, the distance of B, then if we draw a perpendicular on this line from IAR like that, then you can see that the component of RA, this one along this line, is RA cos 30. This is RA and this is 30, so this is RA cos 30, and the component of point of RB on this line is RB cos 60. So RA cos 30 minus RB cos 60 is equal to D. You can see that this distance RA cos 30 and this distance RB cos 60 has a difference which is equal to D, which is given in the question. So this is root 3 RA by 2 minus RB by 2 is equal to D, and root 3 RA minus RB is equal to 2D. Okay, so this is the equation number 2. Now we all know that omega would also be same. So if we assume that omega is this one, then V1 by RA should be equal to V2 by RB and should be equal to omega. So V1 by V2 should be equal to RA by RB, and V1 by V2 is equal to root 3 by equation number 1. So this is root 3. So RA is equal to root 3 RB, and if we substitute this value in equation number 2, in this one, so you can see that 3 RB minus RB is equal to 2D. So RB is equal to D and RA is equal to root 3 D, because RA is equal to root 3 RB. So the omega is equal to V2 by RB, where RB is equal to D. So omega can be written as V2 by D. So the correct answer is option number D. Now let's move on the next question. In this question, there is a uniform rod of length L and it is kept by leaning on wall and horizontal floor at an angle of 53 degree. Now this rod is released from rest from this position, and we have to find out the angular acceleration of this rod just after the release. Now obviously I'm again saying you that I can do this question by the simpler conventional approach also, but that approach would be making the solution somewhat lengthier. So we are using the approach of instantaneous axis of rotation to keep the question in optimum time. Now we know that if this rod is released from rest, then this point H, or I can say the point which is on the ground, would be slipping in this direction, and this point would be slipping in this direction. So if we draw the two perpendiculars on these velocities, then the point of intersection of these two perpendiculars would be this one, which is the IAR. So this is IAR, and hence we have to consider only rotational motion of the rod about IAR. Now I am drawing the forces which are acting on the rod at this instant. So there would be a normal reaction of the wall NW, and there would be a normal reaction of the floor NH. So these normal reaction and mg would be acting in the downward direction. So there is no friction on any wall in the floor. So there is no friction acting on the rod. The mg is acting in the downward direction. Now you can see that the torque about IAR would only be due to mg, because NW and NH are itself passing through IAR, therefore their torque would be 0, and the torque of mg would be calculated by this perpendicular distance. So this is L by 2 cos 53. So torque of mg about IAR would be mg into L by 2 cos 53. So torque about IAR would be equal to mg L by 2, and cos 53 is 3 by 5. So this is 3 mg L by 10. Now this torque will be equal to I alpha, and obviously I would be about IAR. So the moment of inertia of this rod about IAR can be calculated by parallel axis theorem. So let us suppose that the distance between center of mass and IAR is r. So we can apply the parallel axis theorem, and for that let us assume that this is x and this is y. So r square is equal to x square plus y square, and x is obviously equal to L by 2 cos 53, which is equal to 3L by 10, and y will be equal to this is also 53. So the component of y, this one, is L by 2 cos 53 is this one, and this is L by 2 sin 53. So y is equal to L by 2 sin 53. So r square is equal to L by 2 whole square, and therefore r square is equal to L square by 4. You can see that, because sin square 53 plus cos square 53 would be 1, and this would be r square will be equal to L square by 4 plus L square by 4. So that is this is yeah, in fact yeah, r square will be equal to L square by 4. You can substitute the value and you can see. Okay, so the moment of inertia about IAR would be equal to ICOM plus MR square, and I about IAR would be ICOM is ML square by 12 plus ML square by 4. So it is ML square by 3. Okay. So the equation is 3 by 10 mgl is equal to ml square by 3 into alpha, and cancelling this m with m, and g is 10, so 10 is cancelled, this l is cancelled, so alpha is equal to 9 radians per second square. So this is the value of angular acceleration which we have calculated by IAR. Now let's move on the next question. In this question, there is a rod which was initially lying vertically on the wall, and the length of the rod is L. Now this rod is, the lower end of the rod is slightly displaced and it is starting to slip over this frictionless ground and along this frictionless wall. Now we have to find out the angular velocity of this rod as a function of theta. So first of all, let us draw the initial position of the rod. So in the initial position, the rod was at a height the center of mass of the rod was at a height of L by 2 from the ground, and now this height is equal to L by 2 sine theta. So obviously you can see that center of mass has came down. So the work done by mg on the rod is mg delta h, where delta h is the length by which center of mass has descended. So this is L by 2 minus L by 2 sine theta. So delta h is equal to L by 2 1 minus sine theta, and therefore work done by mg, W by mg is equal to mg L by 2 into 1 minus sine theta, and this is equal to half I omega square, but this moment of inertia is about the instantaneous axis of rotation, because we are considering only the rotational kinetic energy, and considering this fact that this rod is in the state of only rotational motion about IAR. So this is IAR and this rod is only rotating about IAR. Now this distance, you can see that if this is R and this distance is this is x and this is y, so r square will be equal to x square plus y square, and r square will be x will be equal to L by 2 cos theta, and y will be equal to x will be L by 2 cos theta, and y will be equal to L by 2 sin theta. So r square will be equal to L square by 4. So this is mg L by 2 into 1 minus sin theta will be equal to half I along IAR. Now the moment of inertia of the rod about its center of mass is ml square by 12 plus m r square about this axis. So r square is L square by 4. So this will be ml square by 12 plus m L square by 4 into omega square. So cancelling this 2 with 2, and this is mgl into 1 minus sin theta is equal to ml square by 3 omega square, cancelling m with m, L with L. So omega will be equal to under root of 3g by 1 minus sin theta into L. So this is the angular velocity of this rod as a function of theta. Now let's move on the next question. In this question, it is given that there is a meter stick, and obviously the length of the meter stick is 1 meter. The velocity of the center of the meter stick at some instant is 10, and the velocity of the left end of that meter stick is 20. So we have to find out the angular velocity of this meter stick. Now I'll show you that how to calculate these kind of questions by two methods. So method 1 is the fact that the relative velocity v1 minus v2 is equal to 20 minus 10, and that is equal to 10. And the moment I have calculated the relative velocity of v1 with respect to v2, then I have considered this point center as the axis of rotation, and I have considered it to be at rest. Now if this point is at rest and this is moving with a velocity of 10, then this would be the radius of the circle, and therefore the radius would be 1 by 2. So omega will be v1 minus v2 upon d, where d is the distance between these 2 points 1 and 2. So this v1 minus v2 is 10 and d is half. So this is 20 radians per second. Okay, so this is the method 1. Now by method 2, this is the method of IAR. So you can locate the IAR and you can join the tip of these 2 points. And if let's suppose that this is the IAR, I have not assumed that the end of the rod is IAR. In fact, I would find out the distance of IAR. So if the distance of IAR is this is R2 and this is R1, so you can see that 20 upon R1 is equal to 10 upon R2. R1 is this complete distance, this one. So 20 upon R1 is equal to 10 upon R2, and that is omega. So omega remains the same. So R1 upon R2 is equal to 2, as well as we know that this is R2, this is R1 complete distance, and this is R2. So R1 minus R2 is equal to D. So R1 minus R2 is equal to D, and D is equal to half. So R1 minus R2 is half, and R1 is equal to 2R2. So this is 2R2 minus R2 is equal to half. So R2 is equal to 1 by 2, and R1 is equal to 1. Okay, so this signifies that this R1 is 1, and hence this IAR would be at the end of this rod at the right end. So this is R1 and this is R2. Now the omega can be calculated by this equation. So omega will be 20 by R1, which is 20 by 1, which is 2. So the correct answer would be option number A. Now let's move on the next question. In this question you can see that there is a rod which is connecting two balls, and this system is released horizontally from a height of 0.1 meter. These balls strikes on this steel and brass surface at the same time, and they rebound. Now it is given that the coefficient of restitution of a steel base is 0.6 and for the brass base is 0.4. Now we have to find out the angular velocity of the system just after the rebound. So let us first of all find out the velocity with which they will strike the surface. So u would be equal to under root of 2gh, and therefore u will be equal to root 10. In fact, u will be equal to root 2, because this is 2 into g is 10 and h is 0.1. So u will be equal to root of 2. Okay, now when these balls will bounce back, then the velocity of the ball which is bounced from the steel base will be 0.6 of u, 0.6 of u. So let's suppose it is v1, and the velocity of this ball will be 0.4 of u, and let's suppose it is v2. Now the IAR will be lying on this axis somewhere like that. And you can also solve this question by the normal method which I have demonstrated in the last question, but we are solving it by IAR. So this is IAR, and let us suppose that this distance is R1 and this is R2. So 0.6 U by R1 is equal to 0.4 U by R2, and this is equal to omega. So 6 upon 4 is equal to R1 upon R2, and therefore it is 3 by 2. Now it is also given that R1 minus R2 is equal to 1, because this is R1 and this is R2. So R1 minus R2 is 1, and R1 is 3 by 2 of R2. So 3 by 2 R2 minus R2 is equal to 1. So R2 is equal to 2, and R1 is equal to 3 by 2 of R2. So R1 is equal to 3. So omega will be equal to either 0.6 U by R1 or either 0.4 U by R2. Now we know that omega is 0.6 U by R1. Now U is equal to root 2. So this is root 2, and the value of R1 is equal to 3. So omega will be equal to 0.2 into root 2, and by that omega is equal to 0.4 U by R2. So omega is equal to 0.4 and R2 is equal to 2. So 0.4 into root 2 by 2. So omega is equal to 0.2 root 2. Now this omega is to be equated with n into 10 raised to power minus 2. So 0.2 root 2 is equal to n into 10 raised to power minus 2. So n is equal to 20 root 2, which is approximately 28. So n is equal to 28. Thank you.